Hey, what's up? From the front seat. Today, we're going to be crushing it. I got a very special guest for you today. Welcome to the show. Yes. You know why we feeling all good? We got a new one in there, y'all. So we're going to throw up the one right here, like Brucey Collins said, to bring it in, right? My special guest today will be none other than the great actress, activist, musician, writer, and all that good stuff rolled into one. Miss Dance Marie, I'm going to bring her on in a minute. But I need you guys to understand something. Wear your mask. Use your hand sanitizer. Stay safe. Make sure you love yourself and love your family. Our mantra for this show is always peace, love, and harmony. So I need everybody right now, if you're at home, put your hands together like this. Come on, clap them hands. Clap them hands, y'all. Yeah. Like this. Yeah. You know what? I always need this before I get started. See what I'm saying? Nothing but the funk right here, y'all. This is what makes the front seat funky and energized. Loving me some monsters. Oh yeah. Nothing but the funk, cause Monster is the funk. Nothing but the funk, cause Monster is the funk. Yeah, it's the funkiest drink, y'all. You feel me? Right now. Without further ado, I'm gonna bring in my guest for you, Miss Nancy Marie.
Hello.
What's up? How you doing?
I'm good. What's up?
I'm chilling over here, just getting it together, and can't wait to have this beautiful conversation. Just bringing it in a little different. Welcome to the new format. So you're, going to be a part of this in a big way. How are you guys doing? And how's Philadelphia?
Philly is on chill right now. We're good. Doing the best that we can with what we got. It's been a crazy year, but we're still here. We're gonna make it do what it do.
Exactly right. And I told you off air earlier, and I see you got another beautiful shirt on. We're gonna get into that in a minute.
Lord.
That's what's up. But you got so many likes for that Good Trouble, that purple you was rocking that day, along with so many other beautiful women. And I was like, wow, they looking at this. They don't care about me or the show. They
just want to.
Yo, it's for the shirt. So today's show is dedicated to the shirt and John Lewis.
There you go. I should have pulled it out of my drawer, but I don't want to start nothing on air. But everybody
no, it was good. I was hoping. I was like, well, I'll get her to wear it one day because my friend, one of my friends had asked where did she get it from. She needed one. It was Cheryl from the Club Funketeers. So I said, well, I'll text Nancy and let her know. So I told her, look you up on Facebook.
Right. Well, I posted the link on one of the posts that you did, but that particular shirt is available at rookieatl.com. So that's rookieatl.com. Their merchandise is fabulous. I love that shirt. That's my shirt. That's my go-to. And this is another one. This one is from LolaKnit.com, and it says, keep your praise, Black women want our wage. How about that?
Yo, say that again. Could you say that again for me?
Keep your praise. Black women want our wage. Pay us, baby.
You know what? That's a good way to start. So let's start right there. I need people to understand that might not know. What is the purpose of the fraternity with the pearls and the purple and the chucks? A lot of people don't know what that's about.
Well, that was basically a unity movement, if you will, on behalf of the Pan-Hellenic Greeks. Kamala Harris is an AKA, and the first elected Black woman VP. Shout out to her. But what the Greek women did this time, which is something beautiful, is the fact that they got together. It didn't matter whether you were AKA, if you were a Delta, if you were a Zeta. They just got together and determined that they, in honor of this accomplishment, they were going to wear their pearls and their colors and their chucks in honor of Kamala and what she has done. So that's what that was all about.
That was so cool to see her up there along with President Biden. And at least I know I don't know, and you can answer this for me. When I kind of got into the whole week, because it was a whole 2 months of just stuff, man. And I ain't going into that negativity stuff, but everybody knows what it is. And when I saw the love and the hope, the word I use is hope, that came back, I kind of felt, okay, this is the first part of the healing process. Did you feel that way?
Yeah. Once the fog kind of lifted and you were able to see it, it's definitely a thing of hope, but with that hope comes responsibility. So if you think back to when President Obama got elected, it was that same feeling of euphoria and, hope and everything, but we kind of got lazy.
Yeah,
We as a community didn't do the work that was necessary to maintain that. We got caught up in the emotion of the moment, but we didn't do the work. So this time, I hope, I think we're more woke with everything that we've been through. If we're not woke now, I don't know when or what will wake us up. But, with the euphoria, and I'm not taking away from anybody celebrating or anything like that, but there's work to be done. We have to do the work. We have to do the work. As I stated, the first time we got together on the show, I had made the statement that nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves, and that's where the work comes in. She's in a great position. And that puts us in position, but we can't just be in position and just stand there and, wait for the savior to crack the sky and save us. We got to do the work. And that's what's missing.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. And we're going to talk a little bit about doing that work today, because I love that phrase. And again, here we are hanging out with the lovely Nancy Marie. She's a beautiful activist, spiritualist, writer, entertainer, and does so many great things for her community. And when you say do the work, I love that phrase, because I feel like you, a lot of us got complacent, and a lot of us did not want to understand we got to put in our elbow grease on this thing, and I was just talking to some gentlemen yesterday, a couple of gentlemen, I pick them up here and there, whatever, on my job. And I was like, I'm so sick of Black people complaining about things that we can fix ourselves. As Afro-Americans and minorities, some things are out of our control. But the things that are in our control, we don't have an excuse anymore. Like you just said, if we ain't woke now, when are we going to be awake?
Right.
Do you think our young Black men and women will take the torch that we're trying to pass, those of us in the light, and really, really run hard with it?
If we pass it.
Right. If we pass
it, because the mindset with a lot of people in our generation is that these no good such and such and so, they ain't going to be nothing. They ain't going to do nothing. Instead of taking that energy and investing it in a way to show them, hey, there's another way. There's something out here for you to do. You have a purpose. We got lazy. It got to a point where we forgot all about community and it became all about us. And the mindset pretty much was, look, as long as I'm straight, I'm straight, I don't really care about the next generation or whatever. But, that's kind of like warped in itself, because at some point, you're going to have to depend on the next generation to take care of you. You know, if you spend any amount of time on this earth, you know, your life is going to be in their hands at some point. So
Yep.
why not
Amen.
make an investment in them that's going to yield you a return that you're going to want to deal with?
Yep, that's right. And you know, you couldn't have said it better, because as we, the elders, I consider us the elders, and Kevin and I and you and I talk about this all the time. Now that we've moved into that elder position, we do have
Right.
to pass the torch. We do have to encourage. Now is not the time to try to break anyone down, specifically if they're trying to do something good. Now is the time to lift up. And again, I'm talking about our community. You know, we have to work together with everyone. But like Malcolm said, we do have to focus our energy and thoughts on our community. And I know that's one of the things that you're doing, because you have a podcast, or you know, you run a podcast about, with some young women that are doing
Mm-hmm.
some great things. We talked about this last time. Can you
Yep.
refresh us on that a little bit?
Oh, I sure can, because 2021 started off with a bang for those girls. We've been on a hiatus since October, and 2021, we picked up the UK in our listening audience. Melbourne, Australia came on, and they ranked twice on Apple Podcast United States nonprofit charts. When they first came in, they were at number 65, and then they jumped to number 17. Like I said, we haven't released a
Wow.
new episode since October.
Wow.
And trust and believe, the new episodes that are coming up, we have this one young lady that's breaking down the autism spectrum and how it impacts the African American community. You would think that you were speaking to a 65-year-old doctor with the wealth of knowledge that this young lady has. It's amazing. Her name is Marmia Day. Watch out for her.
Wow.
But to answer your question, girls.
No, good. Go with it. Go with it.
Well, you know, because you asked me to refresh the audience as to what the podcast was about. So I am on the board of directors with a nonprofit in Philadelphia called the Evalor House. Some of you may have seen a special on NBC on November 25th, L'Oreal Women of Worth. Our executive director, Cheryl Ann Wadlington, was nominated as one of the Women of Worth. So NBC did a special on all of the nonprofits that got nominated this year. And I made a special guest appearance as myself on NBC television. So that was kind of dope. So the Evalor House is a nonprofit organization that serves teen girls of color here in the Philadelphia region. And now with the pandemic, we've actually managed to go nationwide because we had to move our programming to a virtual platform. So that enabled us to serve girls throughout the United States for the first time in our history. We've been in operation for 16 years. The Girl Truth, What Lens Are You Looking Through podcast is a part of the Evalor House. What happened was we did a On the Table Philly discussion a couple of years back, and we brought in some of our graduates and asked them, you know, what were the things that the Evalor House could be doing for the girls that we weren't doing. And their response to us unanimously was, no, the Evalor House did everything that they were supposed to do for us. It's time for us to step up and do something for our community. And the podcast was one of the things that they wanted to do. So without getting into the weeds, because I told the whole story last time, I took the responsibility of serving as an advisor on the podcast and ended up becoming the producer. So for our first 2 seasons, I am the producer. I did bring on an associate producer at the request. One of our former hosts decided that she wanted to get more into the production aspect. So I've been actually grooming her. So hopefully by season 3, she will be the producer and I will just be the overseer watching them do their things. But they talk about, you know, issues that are, you know, affecting them, that are important to them. They tell their stories. They create narratives. And they are just an amazing bunch of young women who are very in tune to what is going on in society as far as racism, sexism, you know, the issues that are impacting them. Some of our episodes included Blacks Against the Black Lives Matter movement. That was a that was a mind-blowing episode.
Yeah.
Black Girl Pain was another good one. They just, I learned something new from them every time they record. I learned something new, and I'm daggone near 60 years old. Okay, tell the truth, shame the devil. I learned something from those girls every time I listen.
Yeah, it's so good to hear those stories because I cross paths, and I told you I live across the street from Duke University. I live 10 minutes away from NC Central, right, Historical Black College, and I live 15 minutes away, 20 minutes away from UNC. So I am
Mm-hmm.
constantly picking the brains of these young people, black, white, gay, straight, it don't matter. I want that information, and like you, I learned so much from talking to young people because I think what happens as a parent, you notice your parent, and as the elders, sometimes we get jaded about the feelings of our young people and about the stress and emotion they're under. And I remember I remembered this. You told me this, right? And that's why I'm bringing it back. Yep. I
Yeah,
remember.
so that one
Go ahead.
episode, man, they were talking about stress, and that Layla, I mean, she socked it to me because she was talking about something else, and she just stopped midstream, and she was like, "Yeah, because you parents, we come to you without stress, and that ain't stress, like, well, it's stress
Right.
to us." And I mean, I was so convicted because I can
Yeah.
count fingers, toes, Kevin's fingers and toes, and all of my children's fingers and toes, the number of times that my children have presented to me that they were stressed out about a grade or about a this or about it, and I'm like, oh, that ain't really stress, but yeah, it's stress to them.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
they are, yes, it's stress, and it impacts
Yep.
them. So yeah, Layla got me good. I was like, man, I had to put up the church finger and like excuse myself because
Right. Yep.
I
Yep.
mean, she was on point though. She was on
Yep.
point.
And that's why I brought it up because I went back and looked at my notes because I script and I take notes and I'm very detailed, right? And even though it seems like I'm chaotic, my chaos is my organization. And I said, okay, I wanted to bring this up because it stuck with me. Ever since
Yeah.
you told me that story, I have been a gentler, kinder dad in that aspect because I
Wow.
understood it was just something I needed to hear. And I was always like that, but I just needed that reinforcement. That's why I brought it up because I think it's a very good point for you parents out there. Again, here we are hanging out with Nancy Marie. For you parents out there, are you about to be parents or uncles, aunts? I know Mark got nieces and nephews. We have to remember the same way we feel about what's going on now, our children and our younger people feel. So, on another note, as we get into 2021, I know you got a few projects, you got your hands in stuff. I know you're going to be shooting the new Nappy Head Funk Army video whenever our budget comes through, which I'm praying for that. So yeah, we that's a done deal. That's already been signed,
Woo!
sealed, and delivered. So we're trying to just get the paper right for that. But that's we working on that. But with your new project, and I know you've done KHX, the Bass Roads Groove stuff, right? But I know you were working on this thing, the Shine Box, the Shoe Shine Box, right?
Yeah.
And that title is very powerful. It's extremely powerful. All the thoughts that go around that. So tell us a little bit about the Shoe Shine Box.
So the Shoe Shine Box is a musical play or play with music by a young lady here in Philadelphia by the name of Adrienne Cater. And the central piece, everything revolves around this shoe shine box that was owned by, the grandfather and passed on down through the generations. So it's actually a journey from the 1940s to present day, which really illustrates how things have changed and how they really have not changed. And like I said, the main character, if you will, is this shoe shine box. So I was hired as a top liner. And for those who don't know what top lining is I was brought on to write the melody and the lyrics and to do the vocal arrangements for the musical pieces in the play. So I got to do a nice 1930s, 40s piece entitled Colored Lines, Blues for Jackie. So it pretty much details the life story of Jackie Robinson from the very beginning to the end of his life, where initially it was just telling him, kind of behave yourself, hush up, Jackie, don't say nothing, run those bases, ignore their faces, all the stuff that he had to go through. So we have that part of it. Then we go to that middle ground where he started having trouble with people of his own race. People saying that he didn't deserve to be where he was, that there were other people better than him that deserved the position that he got. And then finally we get to the end, it's like where we just telling him, you know what, ignore their faces, say what you gotta say, don't be quiet, So it's a really great tune because it makes references to the lynchings that were going on and the danger of being Black during that time period, which really has not changed in this time period. So it's the journey. It's the journey. So it relates to his life, but it also relates to what we're going through. Then the next song, which I co-wrote with Adrian, deals with a young man coming home from the Vietnam War. So, much of the same stuff going on in that particular piece. And then,
Right.
it's an amazing play. And then it also deals with the plight of Black women. So there was one song where there's a 16-year-old boy who really, his mother gave him away practically at birth. And he never really understood or knew the reason why. And, for most women in that predicament who make that choice to give their offspring away, it's usually looked at in a negative aspect. And this particular song, she has passed away. He doesn't know she's passed away. So she's coming to him in the spirit to explain to him that, this was really a selfless act. She would have preferred to keep him, but all she had to give him was the life that she gave him when she birthed him. She had nothing else left to give. So it was better for him that she gave him away so that he at least could have a better chance at life, So it just, it lays all that stuff out, it breaks a lot of the stereotypes that we think about when women make this choice to, give their child away. It's not always because they're trifling and, they selfish and all this other stuff. There's, a lot of stuff, a lot of backstory that people don't really take into account when they look at situations from the surface level. And that's always been my goal, for people to stop just looking at the surface. I like to go deep and kind of explain the reason why, so that, we can get along better. We can understand each other. We don't always have to agree, but if you can understand why I did some of the things I did, that might not have been your choice, but that's what was good for me at that moment in time. Of course, we grow, we develop, we mature. And so at this stage in life, maybe I could make a different decision. But where I was at that point in life, that was the best that I could do. And I did what I had to do to survive and to make sure that you survive. So I'm excited about this piece. Yeah.
That's such a beautiful thing, and there was a lot, going on in that shoe shine box that you just brought to light. Because a lot of times kids do grow up, and I know, firsthand, you're always thinking in the back of your head, what did I do wrong? And then as you get older, people with wisdom can tell you what you just mentioned. Maybe it wasn't something you did. Maybe the person that had to put you in a better situation did it for the greater good. You know what I mean? And sometimes we can't see the greater good. God lets us, He unfolds certain things to us certain ways. Everybody can't always get it from the pulpit. Sometimes you got to get it from however you get it. But the main thing is you get it. That's my thing. I don't care how you get it. long as you get
Yep.
it. And I'm
Eventually you
glad
get
you
it.
mentioned that because for a lot of people out there that's watching, don't hold a lot of things onto yourself if you were in that particular situation because, like Nancy just mentioned so eloquently, it could be because it was better in the long run than the short term. Sometimes as a parent you got to think ahead down the line as opposed to like what's right up front. I'm very excited about the shoe shine box because I used to have my dad's shoe shine box for the longest, right?
See?
And that was the Sunday
See?
morning ritual. Saturday night or Sunday morning you get up, you get everything, but you got to do the shoe shining first so you don't get your clothes messy. So you take
Right.
care of all of that before you get dressed. But I remember it was such a powerful thing to open up his shoe shine box, had a little mirror on it. Then it had, the Murrays, right? And I remember it had all the little stuff that you need because one thing we used to take pride in is looking good. We
Yes.
didn't have the
Yes.
sagging pants. We didn't have the dresses up to our navels. And I'm not saying anything is wrong with that per se, but then there is something wrong with it when you're not in the right situation. And that bothers me. I always, 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 that's one of my pet peeves. I hate the sagging pants. And I tell some of these young men, listen, you know, our ancestors got dressed on Sundays because that was the only day they could actually be out of the fields and look good and feel good about themselves. It was self
Hmm.
esteem. You get as sharp as you can. The ladies with the hats, like your hat you was rocking, right? Everybody, and that tradition, we need to keep doing that.
Yeah.
There are certain things that yes, we don't need to worry about, but certain things and I got a closet full of suits. I just not in position to wear them a lot. I'm not a suit wearer. I'm
Hmm.
a t-shirt, jeans kind of guy, but I still have them because I know
Right.
there may be certain times when I have to make that appearance and I have to look a
Hmm.
certain way. Um, so yeah, it's cool. That sometimes I'm getting the comments. I was just looking over to the side of the comments. And again, thank you guys for hanging out with Nancy Marie. She's a great social activist, writer, arranger, producer, videographer, overseer. She's on, the board of directors for her podcast, overseeing that. She's a mentor. This woman is completely off the charts. The shoe shine person was a vital part of the Renaissance. I have seen some great shoe shine guys here in North Carolina. Mark Lee said that because he understands. He understands the
Yeah.
importance. But so as we move forward, tell us when that's going to be out and where people can find that play.
Well, we just went into rehearsals this month. Due to the pandemic, everything is kind of up in the air. So as they move forward and move along and things are finalized, I will be sure to let you guys know.
Yes, yes,
Because I know they're going to do the debut here in Philadelphia, and I believe the hope is to take it on the road. So I will
yeah,
definitely keep
that'd
you
be
guys
beautiful.
posted. Yeah.
And just so you know, my producer Mark Lee is on the board of directors down here at the Carolina Theater, also the Hayti Center, the Black Cultural Arts African Theater down here in North Carolina. So if you come here, I know
Nice.
you got a home. I know you got a home because I know Mark can take
Well,
care of
all
you. So,
right.
and again, yeah, I know he'll hook you up. And again, thank you, Mark, my man behind the glass, my producer and everything, for chiming in. I appreciate you, bro. Um, so as you started to get your visions to write the songs and produce, where did you get your inspiration from to do the production and the actual work on the shoe shine box?
So, Adrian, like I said, she already had the music. She's been working with Bryant Pugh, who is a phenomenal talent here in Philadelphia. So she kind of and I mean, I've been doing this since I would say 13, maybe. No, even younger than that. Because my sister that I told you about in the other episode, she would be, composing her music in the music room at our house, and I would be in some other room, like 6 years old, like writing lyrics to what she was composing. So it's always been something that I did. Then when I got older, like it's around 13 or 14 or whatever, and I started, becoming parts of bands, in the Queens circuit. We would be sitting down in rehearsal and the guys would just start jamming or whatever. And I'm sitting there listening. And, next thing you know, we have, hey, I wrote something to what y'all were playing, and we, record it.
Right.
And then it moved into a thing where, people would, bring me in, tell me what they want. And then I'd kind of just like meditate on that and, and bring that whole thing. So with the Jackie Robinson piece, Adrian was like, I want a 1940s, 30s, 40s type of feel. And I would like a reference to Jackie Robinson if possible. And so as I'm listening to the music, I started hearing that chant, hush up, Jackie, don't say nothing, run those bases, ignore their faces, So I started thinking about it. And I was like, okay, so why can't that whole thing be about Jackie Robinson? And so that's when I formulated in mind, take it from that point where they're telling him to shut up, don't do nothing, just, kind of be that quiet Negro and yes or no, so don't, to kind of keep the peace or whatever. And then, you move into that phase where, can you make it home when you're not sure if you can trust your own, and then move into the thing where, like, screw all of them.
Yeah.
Say what you gotta say. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I usually, so I can do it either way. You can give me an idea and, I'll incubate your idea and then bring it to life. Or if you just give me the music and let me flow, I'm open to working either way.
Yeah, that's a beautiful gift, man. And I love the dichotomy of the play on words. You know what I'm saying? Can you make it home? Play, home, home. And it's so cool to hear that because I hear your Cotton Clubbish thing going on at the Cotton Club and how I hear it, so that's got to be a beautiful
man, you got to hear the music. Oh, my God. Song is so, it's just, I get chills. When I heard the track, I was just like, oh my God, I was like, whoa.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love to talk about things like this. And what we're gonna do right now, I gotta take like a quick 30-second break. You stay on. I just gotta run a few, spots on my sponsors. We're hanging out with the lovely Nancy Marie. Mark's gonna put you to the side. I gotta run a few spots and give a few shout outs to the people that actually support this show. And I know KHX Bass Jams and your entertainment company is one of them. So we're hanging out with Nancy Marie. We're gonna run a spot right now while we just mentioned P-Funk Radio. I love you guys. Keith Jackson, you guys are amazing. Thank you. Philly Phil down in Texas, get on the funk bus. Thank you for always supporting the show. Afterglow 92416. I appreciate you, Donna Sneed, Benevolent Funk. I appreciate you, Otis Hawk. Thank you so much. Bootsy and Peppermint Patty, thank you for always supporting the show. Also, I can't forget, and I want to make sure that you guys know Tony Cam hasn't got back to me yet, but he's going to be sending me some merchandise. So I'm going to be, wearing his stuff as well. And we're going to make sure that anybody that wants to support this show, you send me something, I'll make sure. And a much big shout out to my main man, Dr. Brookenstein.
Drinking that Bootzilla rock, no wine, baby mama. Yeah, I'm drinking you now. I'm a boogie woogie, baby. If you want to see me boogie, at QueenCityWines.com.
Get your Bootzilla Rockstar wine at QueenCityWines.com.
Yeah. Boosie Council, don't forget, get your wine on, get your funk on. Hanging out with Nancy Marie on the other side of the glass. Man, shouts out to my main man, Dr. Brookenstein. Thank you for keeping Nappy Head tight and all your good comments and your love. And I love your Facebook Live, Dr. Brookenstein. Also, shout out to my main man, my funk master, my brother from another mother, Mr. Mark Lee behind the glass. I was told by a very good source that, Mark, you have one of the greatest radio voices in the history of voices. I ain't going to tell you who said it because I don't want to blow your head up, but thank you, Mark. Okay, so Nancy, I got to get one in on Mark because he's going to give you later. I got to get it now. I was told,
Mark,
I was told, I heard you got the greatest voice, and I'm like, well, dang, I'm doing the show though. I heard All right, we're hanging out. Funk from the front seat. Thank all you guys for tuning in. Here we are, 9 on the Grind TV. I've been blessed to finally get my network up and running. I'm very happy about that. We're going to be doing some great things. Going to have a lot of good stuff popping for Black History Month. We're working on that now. We already got the whole month booked full of shows. So you guys stay tuned, stay up, stay with us, stay on the grind. 9 on the Grind TV. Funk from the front seat. Nancy, the importance of creativity in the aftermath.
Woo, yes.
Um, that's why we saved this segment for the last half hour. This is important. We're going to break this down. Just the phrase, the importance of creativity in the aftermath. Could you give us a little insight on that particular phrase?
I definitely will. We as artists, we have a purpose in the earth. And so you think about the last 4 years, and especially this last year, 2020, being everything that it was to, all of us. And the fact that we made it through and we're still here, right? We survived the aftermath. There are so many of us, artists that are now ancestors. They're no longer here, but we're still here. So in this aftermath, in this period that comes after so much trauma, so much pain, so much turmoil and uprising, it's what are we going to do with this time? As an artist, it's our responsibility to create what we've been placed on the earth to create. I firmly believe, we are made in the image and the likeness of God. God is a creator, so that
Amen.
means we are creators and we are placed on this earth to create. I'd like to just read a quote real quick from this book. Says, all of us carry within ourselves something that is waiting for the right moment when it can burst out and repair the particular separation that we are experiencing.
Amen.
And that's Malidoma Patricia Somé from The Healing Wisdom of Africa. Okay, so definitely right now, if you look at any traumatic experience in history, every period that has the trauma that we've experienced in 2020, there's always been a renaissance. There's always been an outburst of creativity, if you will. And it's necessary for the healing. It's necessary to repair the breach. So again, think of all of the dynamic artists that have left the earth during this period, and the fact that we're still here. We're still here because there's something left in us that we need to contribute to the earth, do our part to repair the breach and to heal our people. Again, nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. So it's of the utmost importance, whether it's coming out of pain, if it's coming out of trauma, whatever it's coming out of, you have to take that thing that you just went through. Think about a woman who's in birth and think about all that pain, all that struggle, all that suffering, all that screaming, all that hollering. I just want it out. I just want it out. And I don't care how many times you say, I just want it out. It's not going to come out until it's time for it to come out. So you have to travail. You have to go through that pain. But trust and believe, when that baby is born, every ounce of that pain that you felt, it's a memory, but you don't remember the intensity. You just remember, I went through this thing and look what it gave me. Look what was birthed. So even with our creative stuff, and God knows my life. I had sent you the track, Our Worship. For one particular reason. You wouldn't believe half the stuff that I've been through. And that's another story for another show, another day. But I have really had many traumatic experiences in my life, starting from when I was a child. And my Bishop Gilbert Coleman Jr., at one point in my life, my life was really low. He said to me, at these times in your life are the times that you should be the most creative. And if I was like, what, really? And
right,
then
right.
as I thought about it, I was like, oh, okay. And so in that travailing moment, I wrote that song called I'll Worship. Like, although I do not have all the things money can buy, I'll worship. And though I suffer loss and like a mourning dove cry, I will still offer you sweet sacrifices of praise. You're still worthy of all my praise. I will worship and rejoice always. Lord, you are worthy of all my praise. When we released that song, I used to do the praise and worship team at Freedom Christian Bible Fellowship. Mm-hmm. There was such a healing, such a deliverance, such an anointing. And I was like, so you mean all this that I went through to birth this song to bless the people, heal the breach? There you go.
Yeah, so other people, yeah.
So it's like, it doesn't matter what you went through or what you're going through, and it's not even about you. And I think that was the hardest lesson for me to learn, because I take everything to heart. I wear my feelings on my sleeve. I get easily offended. It's like, it's not about you, boo. It's not about you, right? It is not about you, because trust and believe, everything you go through, it's not for you, it's for somebody else. Because you're going to make it through, and then you're going to, be able to reach back your hand and pull them up out of the same thing that you just came through.
It's funny you say that, because two quick things, and I'm going to let you get back to that point. David Brooks says, hallelujah. Hi, Nancy. Good to see you. So David Brooks is watching. And thank God we have good people in our lives that make us aware. Because my best friend and my brother, and I got a lot of them, said, yo, bro, it ain't always about you, right? Because I would call him and I would get on the phone and start moaning about me. And he's like, yo, hold up, say hello first. It ain't about you. So I like it when my friends tell me honesty, because my friends know I'm like you. I wear it on my sleeve. It may pierce me, but it's only going to make me closer to you, because I tell you I love you, and I appreciate you telling me things like that. Second of all, when you said praying, I know and I love Prince. I'm a huge Prince fan. And there was a line in one of his songs, and he says, "Sacred is the prayer that asks for nothing." And I always keep that in the back of my mind. Yes, one of his songs. I forgot what song it is. But he says, "Sacred is the prayer that asks for nothing," in that princely kind of way, right? And I thought about that one line, so powerful, because he was talking about a mother who had nothing, and she prayed and asked for nothing for herself, kind of like what you just mentioned. I just wanted to throw that in there. But getting back to the aftermath, I love how we're gonna help heal people today on this show right here on Funk on the Front Seat, 9 on the Grind TV. Miss Nancy Marie is spitting out words of wisdom. You guys can always go back and watch all my shows. We're on Twitter. We're on, all the social media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, whatever. You can go back and get this information, because it's very important you understand what this woman is saying right now. David Brooks says that song is called The Love We Make. So that's the song. If you look up The Love We Make, and then you'll hear that line in that song. Thank you, Brooks. I love you. So, Nancy, let's not get to the aftermath at the moment. Let's get to, okay, we went through it, and now people need concrete roadmaps. They need GPSs and YouTubes to navigate, and I'm using that as a metaphor, to navigate this thing that we call life in 2021. Give us a few tips on how to navigate the dark that we're trying to walk our way out of.
Well, for me, I've learned that it's personal. So I can tell you what I do and what works for me, but what I'm finding out, and even in that time of discovering how to make it through, I've learned that, okay, let me back it up and let me put it to you this way, right?
Got it.
Coming up in the church, if you will, You always hear the phrase, your personal relationship with God, your personal
Amen.
relationship with God. However, the dichotomy, if you will, is totally against that. It's like if your relationship with God doesn't look like the blueprint that's established by whatever place of worship that you go to, then according to them, you don't have a relationship. But yet
Right.
you're telling me your relationship has to be personal. But then you're telling me that if it don't look like this, then it ain't a relationship.
Right. Yep.
That mold that has to be destroyed every night in
Thank
my
you.
prayer time, every day in my prayer time. One of my prayers to the Lord is just, destroy religion so we can enter into relationship with you. You are too big. You are too ginormous, if you will, for us to even, believe that there's only one way to get to you.
Yep. 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 Yep.
God, man looks at the outward appearance. God's looking at the heart. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's personal. So if in fact it is personal, then let's make it personal. You have to spend time with your creator for yourself. You have to discover what his plan is for your life, and you have to be unashamed and unafraid to live the way that he's created you to live, because it's probably going to go against the norm. It's probably going to offend some people. It's probably going to get you called anything but a child of God. But that's where you have to be established, rooted, grounded, and know, hey, this is between me and my creator, And when you approach it from that standpoint, it makes you available to be open to accept other people wherever they are.
Yep.
And that's important. That's what's going to bridge that gap. When like minds and just because we don't agree on the principle, whatever, like-mindedness and like-heartedness, hearts full of love, hearts that want to see a better community, a better day, that's when we can come together and make that change and do the work. It's amazing now. You see Muslims and Christians coming together with Buddhists, and it's like that. The religion is becoming less and less important,
That's
and
right.
it's more about the relationship. And that's what God wants. He wants relationship. He wants us to talk to him. I will never forget. And people think I'm crazy, and that's fine. They can think that all they want. But I was in my bathroom one day, and this was back had to be in the 90s. And I was going through some stuff, and at this point, I pinpoint the 90s because this is when I was in my super religious, holier than thou, Father God, and whatever. So I'm praying like that in the bathroom, and I swear for God, I hear this voice says, "Shut up." Shut up. And it stunned me because there was nobody in the bathroom but me. Right. The voice says, "Shut up." They probably said, "Now talk to me like you're talking to your friend."
Yep.
Changed my life.
Yep.
Changed my life. Because a lot of what I was doing was just repeating behaviors that I had seen.
The rituals, yes.
And thinking that made me spiritual. And it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yep.
It's
funny you say that. No, go ahead. I was just going to say, it's funny you say that because I used to tell people that, and they used to laugh at me. I told people, like, back in the 90s when I was recovering from my drug addiction, right? And, I was able to get through that, thank God. And I used to tell people, they like, well, your father was a minister and you should be this and that and the other. I was like, listen, I don't really like religion. And that was blasphemy. I was playing in the gospel band, couple of them, playing all over the place. But the thing was, I used to tell people, listen, I do this for the joy and for the spirit, and I love the music. I said, that's how I get mine. I said, but I don't like religion. And they would say, why? And I was like, because number one, I see 4 churches sitting on this block of Brooklyn, And I still see people sitting on the steps that have no money and no food. When I come out of church, I have to give them some of what I made. I said, I never understood how we can divide ourselves because of the one common goal, which is the power of the one, the creator. If we're all supposed to be walking to that tip, why do we need barriers and fences? Methodist, Catholic, and Christian, Episcopalian, and this and that and the other. I get it. I'm not knocking any of those. I'm telling everybody right now, don't misconstrue what I'm saying. Please understand, I love you for all the things that you do out there and every religion you're involved in. It doesn't work for me. I too heard that voice when I was listening to Larry Graham. I had got so low in my life, and I always used to put on music, and I literally had drugs in my hand, looking in the mirror, and I was playing this song "Mirror" by Larry Graham. Here in my mirror, and he was very spiritual about his thing. And I looked in the mirror, and I literally saw what Satan looks like. I saw him. He was half this side was me, but this side was the dark. And I was like, is that what I look like to people? Now, I didn't hear that in church. All the churches I was playing in, I heard that in my basement apartment when I was getting ready to do something I shouldn't have been doing. And he personally spoke to me. That's why the story you just said, it related me to that. I was looking in the mirror. Somehow he likes to speak to us through mirrors. I don't get it, but he does. Right? And I heard the song, and it was so powerful, I started crying. And from that day on, I did not have that craving for that drug. It just, like that. It was just because what he did, he wanted to shake me and wake me up and say, listen, I can let you go, but I got work for you to do. You know what I'm saying? And I felt it, and I was like, damn, and what I did, I just gave all the stuff I had away. I had like $400-500 worth of stuff. I gave it away. I was like, listen, I'm done. I cut my crowd loose, and I moved from Long Island to Staten Island where I didn't know anybody. That was my stand. I'm testifying right here. People that know me know this to be true. They said, what happened to Zack? I called him. I'm like, yo, I'm in Staten Island. That's how I met Kevin and everybody because I was alone. I left. And I'm telling you this because this is so powerful. This is such a great show. We're hanging out with Nancy Marie, 9 on the Grind TV, Funk from the Front Seat, because we're spitting out some knowledge that everybody needs to hear. And as we get into this next phase, Nancy, of, okay, we went through the aftermath. You gave us some tips about the personal relationship, right? Now we have that practicality. Going forward, if you were going to talk to a young person or anybody that has a creative idea, right? How would you let them or give them insight as to how to go about physically making it a tangible, monetized thing?
Well, you have to do the work. And again, that journey is personal as well. For some, it would look like going to school and getting a degree. I don't necessarily, recommend that. It's good for some, but not necessarily good for, right. I have the pedigrees or whatever, and I still had to go through the mazes to get, where I am, if you will. So could I have done everything that I did without the degree? I totally believe I could have. Could have saved a lot, of money, if you will, even though I did have scholarships and everything. There was still a bill that was, my responsibility. So, could have been different, but you can go and, let's say you're a filmmaker, you're interested in filmmaking. You can go volunteer, be a PA, work on sets and learn as much, if not more, as going through an institution to get that degree. Now, where the pedigree comes in, into play, and where that's important, if you desire to teach, or, if you need that paper for what you're going to do, becoming artistic, you don't necessarily need the paper. It's good to have. And if that's your role, then by all means, go for it. But that's not the only way. I went back to my alma mater, High School of Performing Arts, and I did a couple of workshops there. And in one of the workshops that I did for the senior class seminar was I set up these chairs, and I called for volunteers from the audience, and I told them, said their purpose or their goal was to get in. Okay, so there was a narrow passageway from where I set the chairs up. I said, your goal, your responsibility is just to get in. And, I gave them the signal to go. And of course, you know what that looked like. All these people trying to fit into that little narrow crevice or whatever. So when I stopped it before it got to, before somebody got hurt, we got a lawsuit on our hands. Let's look at what we just did. I told you your responsibility was to get in, and everybody tried to get in through that narrow passageway, right? Did anybody ever consider walking around?
Right.
Going through the side? There was openings on the side. There were windows.
Right.
Like, did anybody ever think that there was another way besides this narrow way that you were shown? And so it's the same thing in life. We think that there's only one path to get us to where we have to be or where we want to be, where there are side doors and windows and all of these other ways to get in. And you have to find and determine what that path is for yourself. But you better trust and believe. If this is your purpose and this is your destiny, the path that you walk, whichever way, even if you get off path, somehow you're going to end up back where you're supposed to be, and you're going to fulfill that purpose and that vision that was ordained specifically for you. It's no getting around it. It's no getting around it. It's going to happen.
Yeah, that's very powerful because The Veil Has Been Lifted was the title of my very first show last May. And now, I'm only like 5 months away from being a year. And when I first did it on Facebook Live, it was a 15-minute thing. I had talked to Kevin about it. I was like, Kev, I got to do something, man. I don't know what I'm going to do, whatever, COVID, I'm complaining, so I said, I'm going to start something. I hope it works, so here we are, and for those of you out there, just keep your mind on the grind, like Nancy just mentioned, and, you can make things happen in a small way. I love the fact that I'm able to speak with you and hang out with you. And we got plenty of time because I'm on my own platform now. So ain't no time constrictions. So I love the fact that we can do this because when we chop it up like this, it's spiritual growth in food. And one thing that you and I have talked about in the past is we're feeding people how to feed people this knowledge, this experience that you and I have, this relationship with the Creator that some of us have that's very powerful, and it comes to you in certain times. There was a book, Chicken Soup for the Afro-American Soul, or I believe that's the title. I'm not sure. Correct me.
African American
Tell us a little bit about. Okay, yes, tell us a little bit about some of the things that's involved in that book and where people might be able to find that, because I find those chicken soup books to be very, very helpful. I got a few of them myself. You know what I mean? So I find them to be very, very insightful, So tell us a little bit about that.
So I actually joined Chicken Soup for the Soul series, which is the longest running anthology in literary history according to the Guinness World Book of Records. And I came on board in 2004 was my first title. Again, it came out of trauma. The way I connected with Chicken Soup, again, another story for another day. But I joined them in 2004 with the award-winning title, Chicken Soup for the African American Soul, which was the Black Book Award winner for nonfiction in 2004. Joined forces with Lisa Nichols and Tom Joyner, who were the co-authors on that series. And this book was the first time in the history of the anthology that they did a title specific to any culture. And it was groundbreaking. It was groundbreaking because we got to do a book tour where I got to go all over the United States telling my story. And that led to Chicken Soup for the African American Woman's Soul, in which I had 2 stories. And I was also the special project manager under Lisa Nichols. But I bring that particular title up because, again, there were the 2 stories. One of the stories was my happy story, if you will, which was called It Was Magic. And it talked about the time that my dad took me to see the all-black version of Hello, Dolly on Broadway. Cab Calloway, Morgan Freeman, and Pearl Bailey, right? So it was a magical moment. So at the end of the play, my dad, being who he was, Lord have mercy, and I was 5 or 6 at the time of when this happened. Okay, he lifts me because we had front row seats. My dad wasn't no joke. He was an engineer for the Navy, and so he put me up on the stage and told me to go say hello to Pearl Bailey.
Right.
Like, what? And so, but it was Daddy, so of course I'm Daddy's girl. I'm not going to do anything to break his heart. I'm going to do what he said. I was petrified. So here I go walking across the stage, and all you can hear, ooh, wow, the audience is going crazy, right? And so I finally got past Morgan Freeman, Cab Calloway, and I get to Pearl Bailey, and I just tugged her dress, and she looked down. She's like, "Where did you come from?" And I pointed to my father and said, "Over there." And the audience went ballistic. She picked me up. She picked me on the forehead. My sister has the napkin where they placed the napkin on my head that has her lip prints from where she kissed me on the forehead. So that story was in the book. But then there was another story in the book that I wrote that was called "You'll Do It For Me." And again, I'm very open with my life. I don't hide much. So this particular story dealt with a period in my life where I had been accused of child abuse and was facing 25 years in federal prison. Okay. So yeah, it was a deep situation. So this particular story dealt with when I got locked, the first time when I got locked up, and I was in the cell, right, with this other girl, and they took that girl out, and then this other girl came back, and no disrespect, but she was bigger in stature than you are and talked like Barry White. So needless to say, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die in here. I'm gonna die. This woman gonna kill me. I'm gonna die, right? She came in like, where's my juice? So clearly they had given them, their little cheese sandwich and a thing of juice, and they had taken her wherever they took her. I guess the girl that left before she came back must have taken her stuff. And of course, she looking at me like I took her, like, oh Lord God, I'm gonna die in this cell. I'm never gonna see my kids again. Oh Lord, help me, no. So I'm sitting there and I hear the spirit say, ask her if she's okay. And I'm like, God, you crazy if you think I'm saying anything to this woman to think I took her stuff. And he said it again, ask her, is she okay? So she had climbed up on the toilet and come to find out that her boyfriend was in the next cell. There was like a little window, and they were talking to each other through the window or whatever. So when she climbed down off the toilet, I said, are you okay? And she kind of looked at me. She was like, no, I have special medication that I'm supposed to have, and they won't take me to my house to get my medication, and they don't have it. And So we started talking and, cutting it up or whatever. And, come to find out she was in there, because she had a warrant and the boyfriend had a warrant. So he had dimed her out. So she in turn dimed him out, and they both ended up getting arrested and brought to the thing. So, I said, you just got to, put your trust in God. Everything's going to be okay. Yeah. She was like, yeah, I know Jesus going to work it out, or whatever. So we talked. And, I shared my story with her and why I was there and what had happened. And right before they came to get her, she climbed back up on the toilet. And she was like, babe, I made my decision. Because she already knew she was going back to D Block. It was no question, what her fate was. So she was like, babe, I made my decision. I'm going to stay to myself, and I'm going to stay with God. And I was like, and the spirit spoke and said, that was the purpose why I brought you here. And I was like, well, great. Can I go home now?
Right. Where's the key?
Like, nah, wasn't no going homes. And they carried me off to this other place. And, my lawyer didn't even know where they had moved me to. Again, this part of the story, another story for another day. Well, let's stick to the story in the book. So I had this urge, even with what I was going through, I had this urge to pray for this woman. And so I was praying for the entire month of January. I just prayed for her. And then around February 2nd, the burden to pray was just lifted. Like I didn't feel it anymore. It was just like it was gone. I was like, okay, I didn't know what that was about. And my girlfriend had called me. And at this point, I had 6, including the baby. 6 of my 7 children were born. So I actually had 5 because they had taken Michael away from me. And so my girlfriend called and she said she had tickets for the Universal Circus. Did I want to go? Okay, sure, why not? When I hung up the phone, I can just describe it as this dark cloud just came over me. And I started finding every excuse that I could find not to go to this circus. It's too cold to be outside. Nancy, the tent is heated. Well, I don't feel like, every excuse not to go. But I ended up going anyway, full-blown attitude, because this depression thing, this darkness, it was just like, It had me in grips. And I didn't want to be bothered. I didn't want to be there. But I ended up going anyway. So we get through the gates, and I hear the spirit say, turn around. I turn around, and who's standing in my face? Angie, the girl from the cell.
Wow.
And we hugged, we cried, and I'm like, what? She was like, I don't know what happened. Said, but all of a sudden, February 2nd, they released me. Remember, February 2nd was the day I told you that the burden to pray was lifted.
Right.
She got released. She got her children back, and she was the only female electrician working on that circus. And so now we're sitting down, and God speaking to me and said, this is the reason why I brought you here today. I wanted you to see what your prayers did, and for you to know that if I did it for her, I'm going to do it for you. So that was the second story in the book. And so while we were on tour, my inclination was always to share the happy story about Pearl Bailey, right? But in my spirit, it was always like, nope. Do the other story. He'll do it. And I was like, I don't want to tell that story. I want to tell the happy story, But I would tell the story. And Zack, every single time, 2 or 3 people would come up to me like, I needed to hear that. I'm going through the same thing right now. So it's just amazing, what you can do with your trauma. If you trust God, if you're obedient, if you listen, if you allow yourself to heal, then you'll be able to reach back and heal others.
That is so. I got goose pimples, and I'm damn near in tears because I'm emotional about that story. Linda Lou says, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" David Brooks says, "Great story." Sometimes when we share our pain through, words, which I call symbols, but through words and stories, we are actually passing on. And a lady told me this a long time ago, this lady I met, she says, your ancestors since the beginning are always going to be with you. The stories kind of change, but the meaning and the content is what's important. And she told me, she was a very wise woman, and she told me, and this was like a couple of years ago, I was like, man, I'm getting ready to have my 8th, 9th, 10th surgery. I was like, what's up? She said, you have to go through these things because, and I said, well, what's the point? I'm looking for the end game. Because I'm like, hey, what is the end game? And she said, you're going to find that out when you get to wherever you got to get to in the light. She said, but you got to tell us because you're inspiring other people. And I looked at it and I was like, So I got to get all hurt all the time to inspire other people. I accept that because the first thing
Right.
I thought about was people that I was in the hospital with, right? And this just happened this past August. I had my last one, number 10, and hopefully this is it. I was walking up and down the halls. We're in COVID, right? This not this the August last year, and
Right.
it was only like four of us because they had to keep everybody isolated that was coming out of surgery. So
Mm-hmm.
I was always pretty strong after my surgeries. I get up, I walk around, and I see this guy that I had noticed he was walking past my room all night, and I wanted to see who this was because he was keeping me awake, right? Because he was dragging that pole, that IV pole.
Mm.
So I asked the brother, I was like, "Hey, how are you? How you feeling? This and that." He asked, you asked, well, hey, what happened to you? This. I say, hey, another shoulder replacement. What can I tell you? Right. So I asked him, I was like, what's the matter? I said, what happened to you? I said, you look okay physically. I said, but what's that? And then I happened to look up at the medicine and I knew right away he had CA. Right. So I
Mm.
said, what kind of cancer do you have? You know, and he told me, he's got incurable pancreatic cancer. So
Wow.
I thought, I was like, you know what? And we stood right there and said a little prayer, whatever, right? By the nurse's station. The nurses joined in and everything, right? And he said, you're the only person since I've been here that wasn't afraid to talk to me because I had cancer. He said everybody else fears that because they feel it's something that they could catch, you know. And we sat down in my room and we talked for like an hour, just about life, And he said, you know what? He said, you really made my day. He said, I'm going to miss you because you get ready to go home today. And I gave him my card. I said, listen, stay in touch with me, whatever. And he said, how do you feel so comfortable? I said, listen, I understand. I get it. I said, because, you're still a human being,
Right.
and what you're going through is something I'll never, hopefully, I don't know what you're going through. I said, but I wanted to talk to you as a human being to a human being. I'm not afraid of what you may have inside of you. I was worried about your heart. I said, because your heart feels heavy, and I'm an empath. So I felt it. I said, all night long, you was walking up and down the hall. I said, your heart was so heavy, brother. I said, I wanted to just let you know I care about you. I love you, and he said, I made his day. And when I left, I closed the door and he was standing by the window waving at me, and I was like, man, I got on the elevator and I was like, dang, here I am worried about an apparatus and this man has a major organ, and again, you always get signs about how to help and what your purpose is, you know. Um, and I love that story, and I love the fact that you're a published author, and you went and told that because we can't have the light without the dark, can't have the sun without the rain. So
Right.
sometimes we need to see these other things, and this ties into the aftermath. Now that we see clearly what some of us have already known, the people that are going to be in the dark and that are bitter. I had somebody yesterday, the other day, they were so bitter, and I texted them back on Facebook. I was like, yo, why are you so bitter? I didn't do anything to you. I'm just a human being in this country trying to live. And he texts F this, F that, and F you, and cursing me out, right?
Yeah.
Didn't know me from Adam. He's cursing me out. And I texted him back something kind, and I said, you know what? I'm going to love you. If I see you hurt, I'm going to love you. I said, Jesus is love. And then I didn't hear no more from him. Then a minister commented on my comment. This minister from Long Island, and Jeff Roberson, too. And they said, yeah. And he said, man, I love the way you handled that. I said, yo, bro, I ain't in this whole fight and the hate thing anymore. I was like, hey,
Right.
I can't change them. How do you feel about um, not changing or not wasting that energy now that we used to waste on the negativity, even though we got to help them? I want to do it through just an example. How are you doing it?
Right. That's all you can do. You got to set an example because all this going back and forth, all this trying to prove your point, prove that you're right, it's not even about that. It's like, we're supposed to be living epistles, right? So just set the example, you know, be open, like, even when you walk in a way and you fall short, because that's going to happen too.
Yep.
One
Yep.
of the things that God has been pressing on my spirit is like that I need to be gentle with myself, because
Yeah.
I'll screw up and then I'll spend the next 30 days beating myself up over the screw
Same.
up, wasting
Yeah.
valuable time, instead of just
Yeah.
like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I messed up. Okay, let it go and let's keep it moving. It's we got to drop this extra baggage. We got to drop this guilt. We got to drop this self-condemnation and just like walk the walk, and allow people to see us as we really are, because that's what's going to make the change. They see us
Yes.
doing the work unbothered by our shenanigans, forget theirs, because that don't belong to us. But, we unbothered by our shenanigans. We unbothered by our mistakes. We're unbothered by our hiccups. We keep it moving. And they'll be like, okay, what is this that you have? I want some of that. And I tell you, baby, you already got it. It's inside of you. The kingdom is
Yep.
in you. You just got to
Yep.
manifest it. You have to manifest it. Do your
That's
work.
right. That's right. That's right. Chrissy Key Rollins was on my show, and she's a regular, and she said the exact same thing. She's very cool, and she's a woman that I stay in touch with down here, and she's very spiritual in that aspect, just like you and I. And she said the exact same thing. It's almost like we get it, and we've been through some stuff, fire and forged into iron, steel hard, just. And she said, you can't beat yourself up because we're flawed.
Yep.
Spiritual beings in a physical body, we are flawed. And I love the fact that you said that, because people in the audience, again, here we are with Nancy Marie, Funk from the front seat. I love the fact that you said that, because we do carry truckloads, trailer tractor truckloads full of stuff that's
Mm-hmm.
unnecessary going forward, because it has no bearing on what we're trying to do as our mission. And you're
Right.
right, sometimes it does weigh us down. Um, when we look going forward, and we're going to circle back to what supposedly they're going to do as far as um, change. What are some of the main things that you think, if you were sitting down right now with Kamala and Biden, and they said, Nancy, give us one thing that we can tangibly do right now to help the people? Not what they say, but what do you, if they asked you, can they do? What would be one of the things that you might mention to them?
Wow.
I know, it's deep. I know.
Dang.
So many
I mean,
things, right? It's so many things.
it's like, where do you start? Like, where do you start? It's such a mess. Where do you even begin? Of course, I mean, the first thought, of course, would be the monetary aspect. But then you have to question, would that be the best thing at this time? And I say that because there's an educational process that needs to take place in our community where we understand what we need to be doing with that funding, so that we don't find ourselves in this position any longer. Of course, for some of us, if we were to get those stimulus payments and they were becoming regular, how many of us would even be thinking about, okay, let's invest this, let's pay off some of this debt, let's make some investments. It would more so go to like feeding that need of buying stuff so that we can temporarily feel better about what's going on. And all that would do is just create greater obstacles down the road, because that's not where the actual need is. The actual need is for us to become financially literate, to know that even if we just have $5, if we do the right thing with that $5, it could lead to us having $5 billion, but we got to do the right thing. We can't plant the seed in any old kind of soil and expect a return. Right. So
Yeah.
if we're taking that money and we're investing it in the materialistic, then those things pass away. But if we're investing in lineage and legacy, if we want to make sure that our great grandchildren don't have to worry about a student loan or a house, because we've already made the investments to make sure that each of them have $25,000, when they graduate, and they have a home because we paid for it for them, and it's there waiting for them. It's like we got to get our minds right before we can even sit down with Kamala and Biden and ask them for anything. Because
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I love it, because I'll tell you why. Because that was my thought process. I was like, okay, I don't need to have a line 5,000 miles long at the chicken place, because that's what happened down here the last time. I could tell when the stimulus checks came in, because you notice, and this is just me on my conspiracy tip, a lot of this stuff always happens around elections, around a big sporting event. Um, when we had the primaries down here 2 years ago, it was the same day that they announced the Popeyes chicken sandwich. Nobody else saw this. So I'm in the car and I'm like, yo, it was. And I never ate it, and I refused to eat it. And I tell you, you're right, because I said, wow, I'm going to vote. I was like, I'm so glad to see so many people out voting. When I got up closer, I realized I'm turning one way. They're turning in to get the sandwich. And I'm like, the sandwich?
Yep.
And then I was taking a lady, because I volunteered to drive people back and forth to vote. So the lady said what I said. She's in the back seat, middle-aged lady. And she said, wow, I'm so glad to see so many people voting. We got up there. I'm getting ready to drop her off. And she said what I said. She said, I could have made this in my kitchen. She said, this line should be over here for the voting. That's by plan. That's a play. I don't care what people say. And Linda Lou says, this is such a good show. Great message. Hi, Linda Lou. I love you. Dr. Brookenstein's watching.
Hi,
Whoever's
Linda.
watching, we love you guys. Yeah. So I said, this is not by accident. And it was only in the black communities, because that's the only place those places are.
Baby,
you know what I'm saying?
That sandwich. I
Sandwich. I love it. Sandwich.
It was like I never had crack, but I would assume that's the experience, because I had one and I was like, one time after that, I was in the line and the people was in there fighting, and I was like, I can't do this. And I had to detox. I had to get it out my system. It was like I was jonesing for this stupid behind sandwich. And then I had one recently, because there ain't no lines no more. It's like COVID done shut all of that down. And it's not even the sandwich. It's not the same. So I don't know what they was putting in the first version, but it's different now. It's not even the same. So
I told people, I said, beware of the Greeks bearing gifts. And it always happens around a major sporting event, around election day and everything else. And I said, this is by design. They don't want people to focus on things. I was cracking up. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect angel, but I refused to eat the sandwich because I saw so many people eat it. I said, I am not going to eat this sandwich. And I love Popeyes. I ain't do it.
I ate the sandwich.
I love it. Linda Lou says, yes, always wanted to do stuff election time. You're right, Linda, including arrest for petty crap to get the our votes down. Yep. That's right. You know what's funny too? It's like when we talk about this and people, like Linda and David, people chime in, whatever, right? It really makes for the show. And I encourage everybody out there, if you're watching this show, Funk from the Front Seat, 9 on the Grind TV, please be interactive with us, because this is how we learn. This is how we share experiences. I'm so great to have you on my show, Linda. I'm going to bring in, Mr. Mark Lee, my producer, and also well-known activist here in North Carolina, because I know Mark has a few points that he wants to ask you, Nancy Marie, because he always does, and I appreciate Mark's opinion, as well as your voice. So come on in, Mr. Markley, with the greatest radio voice.
It's always great popping in and everything. As y'all were talking, I was really enjoying the conversation and all of that. It was an amazing conversation, by the way, and I was really checking out what y'all were saying. One of the things that I was thinking about, Nancy Marie, is how a lot of times we are too stuck on thinking that we are actually in control. And there are a lot of things that we are not in control of, like we cannot control other people's attitudes, their thoughts, and things of that nature. And I know that if a young man, and even now at this age and everything, and I'm pushing up near 60, getting around close to that age and everything, that there are times when I think that I am in control of things that I have no control over. I cannot control what somebody else's mindset is and their attitude is and things of that nature. So even in relationships, whether they were relationships when I was in my 20s and 30s or even later life relationships, there are times that we think that we are in control, and we actually have to understand that there are things outside of our control, including some things that we have absolutely no control over, because the man up high, or the woman up high, as actually it probably is actually in charge of what's going on, and they are in charge of what's happening in that sense. But I do think that a lot of times we're thinking that we're in control of a lot of things that we have no control over, including like even time and things of that nature. And I remember even in relationships thinking that I could control this or that. And then I had to come to a great understanding that there are things that we do not have control of. And that's just some of our growing up and being empaths and all of that. So I was just wondering your thoughts on that comment that I made about us thinking that we're in control of things that we have no control of.
I'm so guilty. I mean, that's something that I'm still working on. But God, early in life, yeah, I'm guilty as charged. And the lesson that I've learned and am learning to implement is the fact that the only thing that you really can control is your response to whatever is thrown at you. You can't change anybody. You can change yourself. So a lot of stuff that used to be outward, like, yeah, I can control this. Now I'm turning that inward. How do I control my response? How do I control my emotions? You know, because outside of that, there's like really nothing you can do. You're going to be throwing some boots and some shoes. And like, how are you going to respond to that? Because until you learn to respond the proper way, if you will, you're going to continue to run up against that obstacle until you learn that you're not going to be able to prevent that shoe from being thrown. But what you can control is your response. So that's what I've been working on. Because
that's right. David Brooks says if you don't like the effects, don't produce the cause. You know, great Funkadelic George Cook. That's right. If you don't like the effects, don't produce the cause. I was working on something the other day.
That sounds like a Nappy Head song.
Yo, it is. It's a Funkadelic song, but we can do it again. Trust me, because I was reading Jeremiah, right, and Jehovah, and I was the other day, and I even told Mark this. I came up with this phrase, and it's like, you know, you can't believe your way into the behavior. You can't believe your way out of the way you behaved your way into it. You know, and that's kind of the premise of it. You can't, you know, believe your way out of something you behaved your way into. You know, and you're right. And you know what? I'm gonna add that to the set if you don't like the effects, because that is a deep song. Bernie Worrell and you know, they used to do it, the Woo Warriors, when Andy was playing with them. So, but yeah, that goes way back to us being in control of our own community, taking it back to the top of the show, Nancy, worrying about how we can make our dollars work for our communities. And Mark is very big on this as well down here in North Carolina. He's knows all the politicians and everything. And Mark, I can honestly tell people out there watching, Mark is one of the biggest quiet advocates down here in North Carolina. You know, you ask Mark about any history. North Carolina actually had a Black Wall Street down here that people didn't even really know about. You know, and we get ready to get out of here in another minute or two. But Mark, I want to give you a parting comment, and then Nancy, I'm gonna give you a parting comment. You know, and David Brooks says the situation is just that. It has no special power to do you harm. It's your reaction that counts. Brooks knows that Funkadelic. He be quoting it, Dr. Rosenstein. But Mark, if you have one final question for Nancy, what would it be?
Oh, well, I'd love to hear her just, and I know it's a long-winded conversation,
That's
but
okay. We
we
good.
were talking about the Renaissance, and I'm actually of the opinion that we're in the middle of a new Renaissance right now. I'm a big fan, as Zach knows, of the Harlem Renaissance and all of that. So I was wondering your thoughts, if you think that we are in the middle of a new Renaissance, and if so, what you think some of the results of that will be, because I'm actually of the opinion that we're seeing a great development in our artistic community throughout the minority community. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I absolutely agree. We're at the beginning of what should turn out to be one of the greatest Renaissance periods that we've ever known. And the beauty of this Renaissance is that it spans the generations. You know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this artist named No Name. No?
No,
All
never
right.
heard.
This young lady, her artist name is No Name. And she has this one particular song called Diddy Bop. This is from her first project. The first time I listened to this, I was transported to my stoop in St. Albans, Queens, when I was 10 years old, and it was just an amazing experience. And you guys need to listen to this song to understand where I'm
I
coming
just wrote
from.
it down.
But
Yeah.
the amazing thing about it was that I was looking at the comments on YouTube, and there were people from every generation, her generation, ours to older, that had the same experience listening to this song that I did. You know, I'm talking, people who are in their 20s now, people who are in their 70s. This particular song transported them back to a time when they were 10 years old, sitting on a stoop somewhere. And this young lady, the power and the transcendence that comes out of her material. And she, when her first project was released, she actually did a project with, Chance the Rapper. She did a guest on one of his projects before she released her first solo project. And reading up on her, she was coming from a place of death and depression and suicide and drug addiction. Wow. And I mean, the very stuff that we were talking about at the top of the show. She managed to take that and create a phenomenal, I'm talking, and I hate comparing artists with each other, but if you could imagine the rebirth of Lauryn Hill.
Oh, well.
This young lady, and she's so under the radar. Like, people need to know this woman and know the music. She's released several other projects since that initial project. And of course, the more recent ones, they're a little more, they're not as raw as the original. The music is still good, but she uses a lot of more pop samples and things like that. Whereas in the beginning, it was more raw, more, earthy or whatever, but it's still good nonetheless. So you have people like that. And then, you have the old heads like us. And like I said at the beginning of the show, if we're still here, it's because we have a deposit to make. Right. And this is right. It's a time of community. Mm-hmm. It's a time of coming together. Like we all have to gather on this killing ground and sow these seeds and sow them together, because the crops are too important. And my crop may not be for you, but what you have could be for somebody else. But the importance is we have to plant them together so they can grow together, so that we can collectively be blessed, because the time of the individual is up. It's over. It's about the collective. It's about community. And we have to get back to that. So that's what this Renaissance is about. It's about the rebirth of the collective, of the community, because that's where the power is, when we stand together.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's up. Yo, Mark, thanks for that. Could you bring up that picture for me now?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
get ready to bring up that picture of that legend and everything. And just one quick thing that I was going to add to that really quick is I just saw that we lost another legend as well. And you were doing the show, I saw that we lost Larry King, who, as you know, is that great, powerful.
Oh my God!
So he just passed away as well. But I'm going to bring up the picture.
Wow.
You were referring to, but yes, we lost the legendary Larry King. And speaking of community, he was one that definitely did a lot of interviews that shared community and all of that. So definitely wanted to honor him as well.
Thank you for saying that, because that's deep. Because Larry King, he's the man. It's Larry King and then everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, that's deep. Thank you for saying that. Here we are hanging out. Mark Lee, great producer, director of this show. I love you, Mark. Thank you, Nancy Marie, author, activist. She sits on the board of directors. Playwright. Just all the great things that you do, Nancy, is just an amazing journey that you're adding to this canvas of life, and I appreciate that. Nancy, when you look at this picture, what do you think about?
I just think about the struggle. It's like, with all the talent, with all the abilities we have, with all the greatness, things like racism and sexism and intersectionality, it's just like the things that are designed to hold us back and hold us down, and yet we still show up. We still shine. We still smile. We're still here. I'm actually tearing up. Yeah.
It's powerful, right? It's a powerful image.
Yeah.
I wanted to show this because, I wanted to, I didn't forget about this, but I wanted to save it for the end of the show because I wanted that very response from not necessarily you, but from my audience. Because despite death threats, despite having to have security, despite death threats to his kids and family over a game, despite being one of the first to break the color barrier, coming from the Negro Leagues to the major leagues, despite playing in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and then the dirty South, Atlanta, Georgia, despite all of that, and he was from Macon, I believe, or Columbus, Alabama, wherever, but despite all of that, still we rise. Now, because Babe Ruth was white, he was a great baseball player, don't get me wrong, but Josh Gibson was a better home run hitter. And then eventually, God sends this man, right? He sends this man with elegance, grace. He took the torch from Jackie, like we talked about earlier. That's why it's ironic how this works, because we was talking about the shoe shine box and Jackie Robinson, So to pay tribute to Hank Aaron, to take that torch from the shoe shine box and run with it like he did. And he never really broke out and hit 60, 70, 80 home runs in a season. He was consistently averaged at 40. He tapped out at 40. And then about 2/3 of the way there, people realized, whoa, he's actually going to do it. You know what I mean? And I remember as a kid, my father listening on the radio, because what happened is this game was played because they set it up to where he was going to do this for the home crowd. He was playing the game earlier, 2 days earlier, on the road, and he tied the record, right? He tied the record. Then they didn't play him. The coach said, no, we're going to wait and get you home and play. The Major League Baseball said, do not let him play until he gets home. It was a Monday night, which is rare for baseball. They broke it on NBC. They didn't cover baseball like that on the Monday night. They showed the game. My father he used to like baseball. We'd watch it on TV together. But for some reason, he was doing something, and he was listening on the radio. So I went where he was. He might have been working on a car, and I'm leaning over as a little kid, 1974. I'll never forget it, April 8th, right? And he's listening, and he says, this is important. He says, I'm going to listen to this game. He said, I want you to watch and listen. He said, this is going to be so important. And he said, for our people. And at the time, it didn't hit me, because I was young. And I'm like, okay, it's a baseball game, whatever. But then I realized my father was saying he endured, which was the lesson. The home run was secondary. And then when he hit it in the fourth inning, my father stopped what he was doing, right? And he went and sat in his bedroom. And I never seen my father cry. And
Hmm.
and he had emotion. So I said, Dad, what's the matter? And he said, I remember in the Negro leagues, you know, seeing these guys come through because my father played in the Negro leagues. People don't even know that. He was a first
Wow.
baseman and a catcher. Yeah, in Georgia. He was a
Wow.
first baseman and a catcher. And he had such a feeling of joy because this man had endured. It wasn't the home run. It wasn't the record. It was the fact that my father said, I'm glad he lived long enough to do this. And at that moment, I understood how powerful race was, and the effect it had, on people such as my father. And people forget Hank Aaron, without the 700 and something home runs, he still had over 3,000 hits if you take out the home runs. This is how great this man was, all under duress. And that's
Right.
my thought on that photo. I'm going to give
Right.
you one parting shot. Nancy, take it away wherever you want to take it. You can talk about the picture, talk about whatever, and then we're going to get on up out of here. Nancy Marie, I love you. Great, great, great
I love
show.
you too,
For those
man.
of you watching on Facebook, thank you for commenting. I love all you guys out there. We're going to rerun this show again later on today on the watch party because it's that powerful. Nancy, your parting thoughts.
Man, just rise up, come together, find your purpose, fulfill your purpose, and let's build this community so that we can heal from all of this trauma that we've experienced and bless the earth with what we were put here to bless it with. That's all we can do.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all we
I
can
agree.
do.
I agree. And to get back on our last thought, he was born in Mobile, Alabama, and he also became a civil rights activist later on in his life. So thank you, Henry Hank Aaron, and to Larry King, and to everybody else that lost somebody in their family. Know that we love you. If you have a birthday or anything out there, know that we care about you and we want the best things for you. I'm going to get on out of here with my roll call, Nancy. You can hang out with us if you want. You know how we come in hot and we go out hot. So this is what we do. Funk from the front seat. 9 on the Grind TV every Saturday right here, 12 p.m. I'd like to thank all the people that support the show. And I want everybody to get up. If you're home, get up wherever you are and put your hands together.
To get out of the front seat, we coming in hot, going out hot. Keep your head up. Lift it up. Couldn't get out, couldn't get through without my monsters, y'all. Produced by Mr. Kevin Harrison, by the way. Musical Revolution. New York, where you at? DC, you're in the house. Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, y'all. Minneapolis, Tennessee. You're the only 10 I see. Utah, Las Vegas. Yeah. Let me put on my sunglasses so I can see what I'm doing. Texas out there, y'all. Alabama, shout out to Mobile. Yeah. California, West Coast. Next week's special guest, Miss Linda Scheider. Woo! Clap your hands, come on. Australia down under. Love you, Carmen. Love you, Wendy. Germany, Daddy Soul, Sister Steady Groove. P-Funk Radio. Philly Phil, get on the funk bus. Robin Denson, Circle of P. Yeah, Gonzalez, y'all. Larry Function Jones. Shout out to all the Club Funketeer ambassadors. What's up, Brenda? Tip my hat to Kamala, Joe Biden. Canada, you in the house. Dubai, over in India, y'all. We go around the world with this funk from the front seat. Brought to you by Died on the Grind TV. Got our own thing now, y'all. Look out. They gave us a platform. Woo. Yeah, don't you know? Are you down with it? 2021. Let's make it work. Let's do it. You're the most powerful thing under the sun. As always, peace, love, and harmony. This is your host, number 9. I'm out.